Well, here we are, folks. Found a good spot to set my first snare set. So it's kind of hard right now because the snow's super crusty, but I don't know if you can see, but down in through here is a little rabbit run, and I can tell by the depressions in the snow from before that this is a spot that they're coming through. Right there, if you look right there, you can see little depressions in the snow. They're rocking right through there. I'm gonna set another one right there too. But they're coming in around this tamarack now. What I've noticed snaring in this particular area is that the rabbits, if there is a nice fresh poplar down, they like to eat the cambium inside. So that's that flesh that transfers the nutrients from the base of the tree, the roots, up to the tree so it can grow. And that's right underneath the bark. And then it's attached, it's kind of like a little membrane that's attached to the tree itself. And if you ever try it, do it. Scrape a little bit off and you can eat it. It tastes really good. It's full of nutrients. It's kept a lot of guys alive in the bush if they get into a real bad spot. Cambium, awesome spot. But the rabbits here, the snowshoe hares, that's what I'm trapping, is they love eating that bark. If I ever see little, like a tree fell down and there's all the little branches just kind of poking in the snow, they'll all be bare. They'll bear them right off. And they sometimes do it with these little black birch too. So we have a lot of little black birch here. It's a swampy area, so we have a lot of little tag altars around, which is awesome for snaring. It's a good zone. It's a good area. I'm going to show you what I do for a snare set and which has been most productive for me. I am half Newfoundlander, and a lot of my uncles still snare. It's a big part of our heritage, and I've learned a lot from talking to my dad and asking him what his brothers do and what he did. And yeah, the East Coasters, they got the snaring down pat for the rabbits. So I'm going to follow them, and it works. So basically there's just a few things, like there is to anything. There's always a few things to everything. Don't short yourself on your snare wire. I've done it so many times. This stuff's expensive. This is 20 gauge brass. I like the brass, especially right now. It's kind of warm out, so it won't snap as easy. I find when it's like minus 30, the rabbit will, if it gets a good shake on, it will snap this wire. Excuse me. But in this climate right now, this 20 gauge or 22 gauge brass wire is amazing. I love it. It's a nice quick kill. Works really good. So I'll take about 2 feet. It's generally what it ends up being, is about 2 feet, unless I'm doing a big drop snare off of a branch. I'm coming off the side of this one. So I'll usually either do a side snare coming off of a branch or coming down from a branch. Sometimes I'll make it, you know. But all I do is just put this in your finger, make a little wee loop. You don't want it too big. Don't be chintzy on your wraparounds on your noose, on this initial eyelet that you're making. Because believe it or not, rabbits are pretty tough. They're pretty strong, and they will put up a pretty darn good fight. The thing with this brass wire, is you don't want to bend it a lot in one spot or it will break. So there we go. I've got a nice free little looplet, and all you're going to do, this is going to have memory in it because it was in a roll, is I'll take it and I'll put it against my knee like this to get that memory out of it. Just get the memory going in the opposite direction. Oh, some sunshine coming out. And then you fiddle with it. You fiddle with getting it set up the way you want it off of your branch. So about the size of my mitt, like that, is what I want for that rabbit to go through. As round as possible. There we go. Let me reset my camera so we can do the snare set and you guys can watch. Let me see if I'm in the right spot here. I'm coming off this tag. This is the run right here. This is where they run. There's another tree right there. So basically, I'm going to set my snare set somewhere in here. Try and get all these little bends out. Oh, I poked myself with that. Got a little bleed on first thing in the morning. So what I do is I set my snare first. This is a nice spot. It looks like they're they're curving right around this this black birch here. So I'm not going to go too far out from that. I can adjust that after. Do a couple of nice wraps. I might go a little bit further out. There we go. And see how fast 2 feet of snare wire can go away. I've only wrapped around this, 1 inch round black birch, and I'm almost out of snare wire. So I wrap around here, bleeding all over the place because I poked my thumb. Just wrap around here, hold everything in place as best you can. Pull that tight around the tree. Take your snare wire and start to loop it around your tree. Lots of loops, so it's not going to unfurl when that rabbit starts fighting. This is a nice spot here. It's a really nice spot, actually. Okay, so we're secure. Your snare always does a little bit of a snaggle on you, so you have to readjust it. You got to fiddle with the wire, bend it. Try not to bend it too much. It'll create weak spots, but just enough. I don't want it too low. The snow is very crusty. Crusty. Right there. That's exactly what I want. Can you see that? The rabbit will come right through here. Boom. Gone. But what I like to do, I want to set my camera up so that you guys can see it. I want to stay off my rabbit run too. That's why I don't bring the dog. I want to get both trees in there for you guys to see. So that's the run. This is the run right here. Boom. Sapling right here. But you want to create a funnel. Okay? So I have all these deadwood sticks here. These little tags. Build yourself a little funnel so that rabbit has nowhere to go. It just kind of coerces the rabbit. And I do a nice big blockade because I have a ton of branches here. So we'll do a nice big blockade so that he wants to stay in this path. He doesn't want to fiddle around, you know. Make it look as natural as possible. Fill it in really nice, because if this is a good runway here, I'll use this numerous times, so I might as well set it up good. But although, you know, with snowfall, and when you do get a rabbit, they thrash around quite a bit, they'll destroy all this. This will all be laying on the ground, generally. But at least all the deadwood material will still be here for next time. So I can get my snare sets up quicker. And I never reuse snare wire. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people do. I haven't really asked that question. I know it's expensive, but I don't reuse snare wire ever. And I don't, even if it hasn't been hit or an animal's been caught in it and I'm taking them down for the end of the season and they've been out in the elements for months and months and months, I still don't use it. I just throw it out because I've noticed it becomes very fragile. The stainless, probably not so much, but the brass is really nice, but it does have, it is quite fragile, you know, in comparison to the stainless. Okay, so as you can see, I've pretty much got it so that the rabbit, if he's going to walk through here, he's going to go through that snare. He's going to go into here. And I'll put this debris right up close to the snare too. You don't have to be a million miles away. Put one here too. Make it as inconspicuous as possible for the little guy or gal. And now one of the most important things that increased my productivity a lot was obviously an East Coaster. I was watching his channel And I forget who it was actually, or else I'd give him a massive shout out, because this guy's like, in my mind, the leader in the snaring for rabbits. Anyway, he does this little trick. I don't care who you are, everyone's gonna have their little tricks. But I've noticed that the tricks that guy taught me, the one trick, you know, if anything that guy taught me, and he does spring-loaded snares too, which I do as well. We'll get into that. But the one thing that guy taught me, I'll show you. Make it natural even over the top of the snare. Make it natural so there's even a little bit overhang in that snare. So it just looks like a nice natural path. Okay, here's the trick. Here is the trick of the century. The chin up stick. So you want your rabbit to put his head up and jump over. So his head's going to go right through that sling there, right through that snare. So this little chin up stick, all it does is he sees it and he puts his head up and jumps over it. He wants to get over it. So this is our first snare set. I'm going to mark this with some flagging tape, and we're just going to keep banging these out. We're going to keep on going. But I like this set, and I see another great spot right there. Great spot right there for a snare set. I'm going to do probably 3 or 4 in this little area. Whew. Super happy. The sun's out. What a nice morning. Okay, be right back. And I'm in the bush right now, and I'm kind of doing this this cool thing that I built here. So I've came back in the bush numerous times and built you know, debris shelters to spend the nights and long durations of time, and you know, it's tough. It's really, really tough to get through a cold night. So what I had was this ice shack, just a pop-up Rapala Ice Series ice shack, which I love. This cube thing, like, I've had this out in the wind in the middle of lakes and stuff, and it's just awesome. Just blocks the wind. I can heat it with a little Sport Cat catalytic heater. I can heat it with candles. But for this particular, you know, this instance tonight, for example, it's going to go down to minus 20 degrees Celsius. It's going to be cold. And I've experimented with the Sport Cat and candles in minus 20, even with a really good Yane sleeping bag that I have in here, the Hunter Edition. Awesome bag, by the way, if you're looking for a winter bag. I still get cold. I still get really, really cold, and it's hard to get a good night's sleep. So my productivity to come out to my camp and hunt and trap, it decreases because I'm miserable and I'm cold and I'm tired, and it's just not nice. So I had a old Army surplus. It was basically a shelter. Wasn't in very good shape. But what it did have in it was a stove jack. It had this nice, I believe this is a 6-inch hole stove jack. So I cut it out and actually sewed on Velcro to the bottom of it, and then I Gorilla Glued Velcro onto the shelter itself. So I glued on the Gorilla Glue, the receiving end of the Velcro on the 4 corners, did the measurements, and then I put the Velcro on the bottom of the stove jack that I'd previously cut this out of the Army shelter, and then I put it on and cut a hole. So the ice shelter is actually cut this dimension, the outside. I didn't want that ice shelter material anywhere near this 2-inch stovepipe. So I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, you're going to get a lot of cold air down and through here. That is true, but it scares me to have. I've had a lot of stoves and shelters, and like, you spend more time up at night trying to, you know, look around and make sure that you're not burned to death, because you smell different things and you're like, oh, is that the tent on fire, the tarp on fire, whatnot. Now I'm probably going to invest in a hot tent, but I just wanted to do this. I wanted to try this as an experiment because I don't use the ice shack that often. And still, it has this flap here, right? So even if this doesn't work and I find it's too dangerous, I can still close this flap and it Velcros over top of the hole. So I'm not, you know, not a complete waste. It's not a complete bust if this doesn't work, you know. So I want to try it out. I have the stove set up inside. It's a Red Valley stove, and I lit it outside yesterday to burn any of the smoke off. I recommend you do that if you have a new stove that you're putting into a shelter, even into your house. Light a big smudge in it outside to burn off the smoke. I know it's the paint, because I know it's heat treated paint, but it still burns like crazy. Like that stove ran for about 4 hours yesterday, and I could still smell it. I'll probably still get some residual smell today. But I want to run this through. I want to run through this with you step by step. I've seen videos of people doing this, and they always show the fluff. They always show the aftermath. They're like, oh, look how good it worked. It's great. I had a great night in the shelter, and it was awesome. Well, I don't know if this is going to work. So we're going to go inside. We're going to light this up. The clearances aren't met with this. Like, it's a way. I'm lucky that it has this blowout here just as the tent is built itself. Gives me a little bit more clearance on the back of the stove. I'm not going to get this stove, you know, piping hot, but for experimental purposes right now, I'm going to get it pretty hot because I want to know before I stay in this tonight, what can happen? You know, what if that stove is piping hot, what's going to go on? I want to work out the kinks right now so that at nighttime when I'm in that shelter, I don't have to worry as much about it. You know, I don't want to be thinking, you know, when dark hits tonight and I fire that up, I want to be able to see right now what's going on. If it's not going to work, that's fine. I'll pull the stove out, pull the pipe out, and I'll put that flat back down over top, and I'll use my catalytic inside and some candles, and I'll live. I'll survive. It's going to be fine. But as from an experimental standpoint, I'm going to run through this with you step by step to show what can go wrong. And I do recommend that if you're going to do this, like this is strictly on your own, you know, like have a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke detector in there with you with the batteries, that you know the batteries are going to work, so that in the middle of the night, if it smokes out or you get a bad draft or something's on fire, it's going to wake you up. I strongly recommend that. So yeah, let's get started. I'm going to jump inside, fire this up, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, so here's the shelter. The stove is right here. There's the pipe going up. I've tried to make it so that the pipe is in kind of the center. It's not touching that fire retardant barrier, that stove jack. And then my sleeping bag and stuff's right here. Very, very close, it's fine. I've done it before. You just have to be cautious. And obviously, I'm going to curl in there and not move a whole lot tonight. But yeah, we're going to hop in here right now and fire this up. I'll be able to actually load the stove at nighttime from my sleeping bed, which is great. I don't have to lose all my body heat getting up and down. So let's hop in and fire this up. So we're back again with the stove. So we're checking out the stove here. So I had a rockin' fire in this, and it's doing very well. It's so warm in here, it's crazy. It's almost putting me to sleep. But the one thing I did notice is that as soon as you open that door, so a trick I found out is open the door really slow, and there's a little bit less smoke comes out. Another thing I noticed about this, the setup that's wrong, just from the manufacturer itself, is see how those pipes slide over top of each other going upward? So it starts with a male and then it goes female, up to male, female. That's the female. That's the female pipe, the top one with the bevel. That's wrong. That shouldn't be like that. I've hooked up a lot of wood stoves in my day, and what happens is the creosote will leak out. Once you get creosote in your pipe, it will leak right here, right there, and it'll drip down the outside of the pipe. That's why in home applications this is reversed. So the female would be up right here. It would be a female coupler, and the males would go down inside of it. So that as the creosote builds up in the pipe and then it gets hot when you light a fire, the creosote doesn't run down the outside of the pipe, which it will do here, definitely will. It'll run inside the pipe and it'll burn itself off down in the bottom of the stove. So that's something I'm going to have to watch. Anytime I see any dripping coming from that, I'm going to have to take this all apart and clean it really well. Because that'll start a fire right there. So that'll drip down. This has burned many a home down with improper installation. It'll drip down on top of that stove, that red hot stove, and just boom, that creosote will ignite like gasoline. So yeah, it's just something I'm going to have to watch. It's just something with the design that I just don't really like. But other than that, I mean, It got super warm in here. I checked all my clearances, so I checked around the back of the shelter. Nothing. No heat. Even up top when this thing was rocking. And I'm pretty close, as you can tell. I'm about an inch away from that fire retardant membrane. It wasn't even hot. It was great. So it's super warm in here. It does get smoky, but luckily one thing I like about these ice shacks, tons of windows. So these windows they Velcro down. It's great. So when I get a bit of smoke in here, I just pop this down and out goes the smoke and away I go. But I think once I get this stove red hot tonight, you can see the nice little embers in there. Once I get this stove red hot tonight and the shelter's shut and I have a container to pee in here so I don't have to leave the shelter to go outside and lose all my heat in my tent, I'm going to be great. So all in all, I give this a win. It's awesome. Another thing I like to look out for is up top is how far above the shelter the chimney goes, because it's going to spit sparks out, right? The odd time, especially in cold weather. So when it's really cold outside and you're having a fire, that's when you know your draft, it'll create a crazy draft. So it'll up the chimney she'll go, that smoke will rip up and it'll actually pull lots of sparks up out of the fireplace and disperse them outside. So you want to make sure your chimney is always above the peak of whatever you're doing. And I'm about 2 feet above, which I think code for a house is like 4 feet. You've got to have your pipe above your house peak so the ashes aren't coming down on your shingles and lighting your shingles on fire. Same application here. It's up about 2 feet. I'm happy with that. And it's blowing everything away. So yeah, when it gets super cold outside like it will tonight, that cold pipe up there and that warm pipe here is going to create a draft. And that's why a lot of people in their homes don't have a good draft in their fireplace. It's because their chimney pipe's too short. So you want that interaction of the hot and cold. You want that hot air going up, hitting that cold air up top. And that'll create that vacuum, that draw, and get rid of that smoke and keep your place running really nice. So I'm going to give this a win. I'm excited to try this tonight. Obviously I got to be careful in here, but I'm ready. This is like a survival shelter, and I'm for one guy out here surviving alone in the middle of the Canadian northern wilderness. This is a win for me. That was awesome. I just had a grouse fly right there. I was working right there, and he flew right there. I just went for a walk, see if I can see him, but it's too late to shoot him anyway. It's getting too dark. It was nice to see him anyway. Well, have a good day. 5:30 or 6. I think I'm going to call it a day. Is that toque ever bright? Another reason I wear this crazy toque is not to look cool or anything or look like a big popsicle running around. But it's in case I go down out here, people could find me. You know, it'd be sticking out, or I could hang it on a tree and find my way back, cut it into pieces, flag my way through an area. It's the only reason I wear it. Alright, I'm going to crawl in the sack, let this fire die down for a few minutes, get in there, get my fire going in the shack, and then have a good night's sleep. Good morning, everybody. Morning 3 of my 3-day trapping camp setup. Outdoor cooking. Look at this. Where is it? Where is it? Look at that. There's nothing like a pound of Canadian back bacon. Get your ticker going in the morning. But I've had an amazing 3 days here. I got up really early this morning after an excellent sleep in my shelter. The hot tent conversion, I'm telling you, it's a game changer for me now. I can stay out here for long periods of time. I can bring lots of food. I can stay comfortable and cozy in there. Like about 10 pieces of wood in there last night, throughout the whole night. And it was, I'm guessing, about minus 20 last night. It was pretty chilly. The wind was wicked again, which you don't feel even a speck of that in there, which is so nice. Because usually you feel a little draft or something. Nothing in there. Just an absolutely great sleep. So that's a win. That's a game changer. That's a game changer for surviving out here for long periods, because rabbits will pick up soon. And on that note, no rabbits in the snares today. Nothing, no tracks, nothing. So, I mean, it is what it is. Like, the main purpose of this little excursion this time was to get my camp set up. My spot that I love. I've been back here now for, well, in this area for a couple of years, using it as, this is my trapping grounds. And I love it. Like, this is a perfect spot for me. There's lots of deadwood, there's lots of firewood, there's not a lot of overhead risk. It's a great spot for this shelter. Now, mind you, they're calling for a pile of rain today. So it's like minus 10 right now, and they're calling for freezing rain. There's a warning, I just saw it. So, I mean, what's that going to do to my shelter? I have no idea. But I'm going to leave it up. I'm going to test it. I've left this thing set up before for weeks at a time as a ground blind for geese hunting. And goose hunting. Chickadees. Threw some carrots over there. They're having a little party. But yeah, I've left that shelter up for weeks at a time. It's been pretty good in the crazy, crazy winds, and I've had it covered in debris and all this other stuff. But yeah, it should be okay. We'll see how it goes. If it gets really bad and we get a ton of snow, I'll come out here really soon. I'm going to be out here a lot actually now. I'll probably come out here at least every second weekend and probably 2 days out of the week, at least now. Maybe more, that I'm set up and I'm comfortable with it out here. Now I just got to hop in the truck with my my bag and my gun, come on out here and enjoy myself because I'm set up. But I really wanted to say thanks to you guys and gals for tuning in. This is a new channel. It's a new endeavor for me, and like any new endeavor, you're a little nervous at the start and you don't really know how it's going to go. But I've thought this out for a long time, and I've known what I really wanted to do for a long time. And I mean, this survival part of homesteading for me, it's crucial. You know, it fills my freezer up with healthy, good, nutritious protein that my son and I can enjoy for the winter. You know, and I have tons of chicken meat. You know, and I have tons of vegetables blanched and preserved from the garden. But I really like to supplement this. You can't have enough meat, you know, like, you know, packed in that ice freezer at home, because you never know what's going to happen in this crazy world now. You know, like I went and bought some eggs the other day. They were It's $4.29 a dozen. You know, I sound like such an old fart, eh? Talking about grocery prices. $4.29 a dozen. They were like $3 like not that long ago when I bought eggs last time. That's why I raise chickens. But anyway, I just wanted to say thanks a lot for tuning in this last 3 days. It's been a hell of a journey. Been a really kick-ass couple 3 days here, and I just can't thank you enough for tuning in. And please subscribe, like, and share it if you think this is going to be something that you want to watch. If you want to pass a few hours at night. My other channel is pretty funny too. Dave Knoll, Off Grid Living with David Knoll. It's a pretty good channel actually. But yeah, I really appreciate all the support from everybody, and hope we enjoy this journey together. And please feel free to leave comments or anything you'd like to see me do. But I'm going to be doing a lot of hunting out here, fishing, trapping, and survival hacks, trips, what's it called? Tricks and tips, and doing some branding and different things. And yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good little channel. Finally get to, you know, do my passion now and show people how much I love it, and entertain. That's what I like to do. I like to entertain. I'm pretty goofy. Okay, well, as you can see, this bacon is doing a really good job of cooking up. So I'm going to get geared up for a 2-egg pound of bacon breakfast, and then I got a pretty long hike out of here again, so I'll pack my stuff up. And I only have a backpack this time, so it's pretty good in the sled. So yeah, take good care. I love your thoughts. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.